guys, welcome to our laboratory session. This time we are going to talk about sedimentation. As we saw previously in our last session, we had the coagulation and flocculation process, and afterwards we have the sedimentation. So in here, what we did, we took a sample from the wastewater treatment plant, from the tank 1. We are going to start, as always, with our initial parameters. So we are going to measure our pH, it is already calibrated, our conductivity, turbidity, and temperature, right? So we are starting now, and then we are going to go to our flocculent machine to start the process. So in here, what we are going to do is to compare three different mechanisms for the sedimentation. So in this beaker we get 1 liter of sample with no coagulant. It's just the natural sedimentation without adding any chemical. In this one we get a coagulant dosage of 25 milliliters, which is more or less what we determined from the previous class that it was the optimum dosage for our sample. And then we have a sample, the last one, with 40 milliliters of coagulant. So we are going to compare which one of those is better and which one of those will give us a lower or a higher sludge amount. So to start, we are going to do the coagulation process. So we are going to add the 25 milliliters in our sample. Then the 40 milliliters in our third beaker. And let's start with the preset, the slow mixing, and afterwards, so we will start our slow mixing, and then we will wait for the secondary mixing, which is, as you remember, with a lower velocity and 20 minutes of time for the mixing, right? When we finish our coagulation process, all the mixing phases, then we are going to use the in-house cones. In these cones, we can measure the amount, the volume of sludge we are going to generate from these sources. So here I already got my labels. Here I have my in-house cone for no coagulant sample. So I drop my sample in here. Very careful, avoiding high turbulences to make it faster. So this is no coagulant, so it's not that complicated. But with those with coagulant, we need to take care to avoid splitting the already formed microflux. At this point, we need to mix a little bit to avoid letting some solids in the bottom of our beaker. And finally, the one with 40 milliliters of coagulant. Mix a little bit, and we drop it into our in-house cone. And then we let it settle down all the solids, and we will measure. Maybe you cannot see, but here in the bottom we get a graduated volume. So what we are going to read is the amount of solids that will be concentrated in the bottom of our in-house cone. For our practice, we are going to take from different times, from time 0, then 3, 6, 15, and 20 minutes. We are going to take some samples using our pipettes. So I already got in here the beakers already labeled. To get from each of the cones a small sample of 20 milliliters from the super net end, just to avoid getting too much and impacting a lot our test. So we just take the samples and we measure the turbidity and the conductivity values in our sample. That is what we are going to do every 3 minutes to check the changes in these parameters during the sedimentation process. By the end, we will get a lot of supernatant in here, almost clear, and most of the suspended solids will be in the bottom of our in-home cones. So let's see afterwards what's going on. After 1 hour of our samples just laying down here in the in-home cones, we can see some differences between each other regarding the amount of solids that we got in the bottom. So for example, here in the sample without coagulant, just the natural sedimentation process, we get a final solids volume of 18 milliliters per liter. So we can see in here that we get a lower solids amount, but we also get some turbidity still in water if we compare with the turbidity in here. So with the data we will see the differences, and in the coagulant with 20 milliliters of coagulant we can see that we get something around 23 milliliters of sludge, of solids concentration here in the bottom, and with the one with 40 milliliters of coagulant we get a slightly higher amount of solids, we get 25, but there's not like a big differences between the turbidity in each one. We will see it with the data and the measurements of turbidity and conductivity to compare the differences. But we can see in the last one that we are using almost the double of the coagulant, but we cannot get like a huge difference in turbidity. Instead, we are getting a difference of around 2 milliliters of sludge. In this case, for this scenario, with just 1 liter of water, that's not it doesn't have a high like significance due to the small amounts. But if we are talking regarding a huge plant, that volume difference could lead to different design parameters and to make bigger our plant. So that's why it's very important to determine a proper dosage of the coagulant to get a high removal of substances, but to keep an equilibrium between the removal of substances and the size of our wastewater treatment plant. So we already got all the data in the different phases, and with the data we will see as well that although we get like the clarification process, one of those is doing like faster. In less time we get unstable data of turbidity, and comparing with this one, with the natural one, it's taking a little bit longer to get unstable data of turbidity. So afterwards we will see the calculations, to do the graphs, and to compare to get the analysis of what we do in this practice. Thank you for watching, and let's see next session.